something is seriously going wrong at The View. And this time, it wasn't just the internet pushing back. According to reports, what started as another heated discussion on live television quickly turned into a much bigger controversy after members of the audience allegedly confronted the hosts over comments that many viewers called deeply divisive. And if that wasn't enough, the backlash reportedly continued even after the cameras stopped rolling. But here's what makes this story even bigger. All of this is unfolding while ABC continues battling ratings problems, Disney faces ongoing cost-cutting measures, and public criticism surrounding The View keeps growing week after week. So what exactly was said that triggered such a strong reaction? And why are so many people now asking whether the show's latest controversy could create even more problems for ABC moving forward? Let's break down everything that happened. Welcome back, everyone. As we enter the final week of July 2026, the controversy surrounding ABC's The View continues to grow, and the pressure on the daytime talk show doesn't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. For weeks now, the program has been dealing with criticism from multiple directions. Questions surrounding its ratings, growing audience dissatisfaction, and ongoing public backlash have kept the show in the headlines, while several of its hosts continue finding themselves at the center of one controversy after another. Among the names receiving the most attention are Whoopi Goldberg, Sunny Hostin, Joy Behar, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and Ana Navarro, all of whom have faced increasing scrutiny over recent discussions both on and off the show. Over roughly the last 2 weeks, the criticism has intensified considerably. Many viewers have expressed frustration with the tone of the program, while others believe the hosts have become increasingly defensive whenever controversial topics are discussed. Some critics even argue that the show's relationship with its own audience appears more strained than ever before, with longtime viewers publicly announcing that they've stopped watching altogether. And all of this comes at a difficult time for ABC. The network has already been dealing with ongoing ratings challenges across several programs, while parent company The Walt Disney Company continues implementing cost-cutting measures throughout multiple divisions. Reports of workforce reductions and restructuring have affected various areas of the company, including ABC, ESPN, Pixar, and other Disney-owned businesses, creating additional pressure across the organization. Now, whether those broader corporate decisions are directly connected to the controversy surrounding The View remains open to debate. However, the latest incident has only added more attention to a program that was already facing heavy criticism. According to reports circulating online, the situation escalated after comments made during a recent discussion generated an immediate reaction from members of the live audience. And that's where today's story really begins, because what started as another conversation about Hollywood and representation quickly turned into an emotional confrontation that reportedly continued even after the cameras stopped rolling. For quite some time, Whoopi Goldberg has remained one of the most outspoken personalities on the panel. Supporters often praise her willingness to speak her mind regardless of criticism, while critics argue that some of her remarks have become increasingly divisive and controversial. That difference in perception has followed the show for years. But according to those discussing this latest incident, one particular conversation pushed that divide even further. As tensions surrounding The View were already building, a new discussion reportedly centered around comments previously made by actor John Leguizamo regarding diversity in Hollywood and the kinds of films audiences should support. What happened next would quickly become one of the most talked about moments surrounding the show. At the center of the controversy were comments connected to actor John Leguizamo, who has recently spoken publicly about representation in Hollywood and the importance of diversity in major film productions. During the discussion, Whoopi Goldberg expressed support for those views and argued that Hollywood still has work to do when it comes to representation on screen. According to accounts circulating online, she said that movies featuring overwhelmingly white casts no longer reflect the kind of industry she believes audiences should be supporting. Instead, she emphasized that studios should continue expanding opportunities for Latino actors, Black actors, and other underrepresented groups. Those remarks immediately became the focal point of the conversation, and according to reports, not everyone inside the studio agreed. Several audience members allegedly responded almost immediately, with some shouting that the comments themselves were discriminatory, while others reportedly accused the hosts of applying different standards depending on who was being discussed. Whether every reported exchange happened exactly as described has been heavily debated online, but one thing is clear. The conversation quickly became far more heated than a typical episode of The View. Instead of calming the situation, the disagreement reportedly intensified. As the discussion continued, Sunny Hostin also defended the broader argument about diversity in Hollywood. She reportedly argued that films lacking diverse casting represent a missed opportunity for the industry and expressed support for efforts aimed at increasing representation across major productions. For supporters of those comments, the discussion was about encouraging broader inclusion in entertainment. For critics, however, the language crossed a line. That difference in interpretation is exactly what fueled the growing backlash across social media throughout the week. But according to people discussing the incident, the tension didn't remain limited to the televised portion of the program. Reports claim that the atmosphere became even more uncomfortable during a behind-the-scenes audience Q&A, where emotions allegedly continued running high. Some attendees reportedly challenged the panel directly, while others voiced their frustration over what they believed had become an increasingly political tone on the show. Several online accounts even claimed that audience members shouted profanity and accused the hosts of pushing political messaging instead of balanced discussion. If accurate, it marked another difficult public moment for a show that has already faced months of criticism from viewers across the political spectrum. And here's where the situation becomes even more significant. According to additional reports, some audience members who attended the taping later provided negative feedback when asked about their experience. Several online claims suggest that a number of attendees indicated they had no interest in returning for future tapings, despite tickets for the program being provided free of charge. If those reports accurately reflect audience sentiment, that represents another warning sign for a program already dealing with ongoing ratings concerns. Of course, it's important to remember that a single audience reaction doesn't necessarily represent the show's entire viewership. However, when these kinds of stories begin appearing alongside declining ratings, social media criticism, and repeated public controversies, they naturally become part of a much larger conversation surrounding the future of the program. And as if that wasn't enough, the controversy surrounding Sunny Hostin has already been amplified by other recent stories involving her personal life, topics that have continued generating headlines and online debate over the past several weeks. Whether those separate controversies are influencing audience perception is difficult to measure. But together, they've created an environment where nearly every new episode of The View seems to generate another wave of criticism. And according to many observers, that's becoming one of the biggest challenges facing the show today. But what reportedly happened after the taping ended may have created an even bigger headache for ABC. According to additional reports circulating online, the controversy didn't completely end once the cameras stopped rolling. Some accounts claimed that as the hosts exited the studio, a number of people waiting outside continued voicing their frustration. Videos and social media posts discussing the incident quickly began spreading, with users debating whether the reaction reflected growing dissatisfaction among longtime viewers or simply another viral controversy surrounding The View. Reports claimed that Whoopi Goldberg was seen leaving the area quickly alongside security personnel before entering a waiting SUV. At roughly the same time, Sunny Hostin and Behar were also reportedly seen making their way to their vehicles while avoiding further interaction with people gathered nearby. Whether every online description accurately reflects what happened remains a subject of debate. However, the larger issue isn't necessarily what happened outside the studio, it's what sparked the entire controversy in the first place. Because for many critics, the biggest issue wasn't simply supporting John Leguizamo's opinion. It was the perception that the discussion went a step further by repeating and expanding on those comments during both the broadcast and the reported audience Q&A. That's where many viewers believe the conversation crossed into far more controversial territory. And according to many critics, that's exactly why more longtime viewers are beginning to walk away from The View. Some believe the show has shifted too far toward political messaging, while others argue it no longer connects with much of its audience. Fair or not, that debate only seems to grow with each new controversy. The latest incident also raises questions about how ABC handled the situation. Some viewers believe producers could have stepped in sooner, while others argue the tension had already gone too far once it continued during the audience Q&A. Either way, The View has once again found itself at the center of another major controversy, and it couldn't come at a worse time. ABC has already been dealing with ratings pressure, while Disney continues implementing cost-cutting measures across multiple divisions, including ABC, ESPN, Pixar, and National Geographic. With that kind of pressure already building, every controversy surrounding The View draws even more attention. Now, the big question is simple. Can ABC rebuild audience confidence, or will these repeated controversies continue driving viewers away? We'll be watching closely as more updates emerge. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think the backlash was justified, or has this controversy been blown out of proportion? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.